People often call it laziness. That moment when you know what you should do, but you don't move. You sit there instead, scrolling in social media. You open something you've already opened 100 times. And the strange part is, you don't feel relaxed. Instead, you feel tense, restless, a little uncomfortable in your own body. If you were truly lazy, you wouldn't feel that, or to be thinking about what you're avoiding. You wouldn't carry that quiet pressure in your chest. That pressure is the clue. Because what stops you isn't a lack of discipline. It's not motivation either. It's that starting would make you feel something you don't want to feel. Uncertainty, self-doubt, the risk of doing it badly, the fear of confirming the story you already tell yourself. So your mind looks for relief instead, not because you're weak, but because relief is immediate. The problem is, relief doesn't remove the pressure, it only postpones it. And the longer you wait it, the heavier everything feels. That's where avoidance begins. Quietly, ordinarily, right in the moments that look like doing nothing. Avoidance doesn't announce itself. It doesn't feel like fear. It feels practical. I'll do it later. I just need to clear my head first. I'll start once I feel ready. And most of the time, it perfectly makes sense. So you reach for something small, something familiar that you are sure what's on the other side, to make the pressure drop just a little. Your phone, a tab, a video, anything that buys you a few quiet minutes. And for a moment, it works. Your body loosens. Your mind softens. The discomfort fades into the background. But it doesn't disappear. It's always there somewhere in a dark corner. And now there's a second layer on top of it. Guilt. Not loud guilt, just a low, constant hum. You feel it while you're scrolling. You feel it while you're relaxing. It creeps in the back of your mind, reminding you that time is passing. So the pressure comes back stronger. And when it does, your brain reaches for relief again. Not because you chose to, because it learned that this is how the pressure goes away. That's the loop I lived years of my life in. Not laziness, not lack of ambition. Just a cycle of avoiding a feeling by doing things that quietly make that feeling worse. The feeling people are usually avoiding isn't the task itself. It's what the task threatens to expose. That you might not know what you're doing. That it might take longer than you want. That the result won't match the picture in your head. And get this. Starting means facing the gap between who you are right now and who you think you're supposed to be. That gap is uncomfortable. So your brain tries to protect you from it by keeping you busy with things that don't ask anything of you. But after a while, something else creeps in. Judgment. You start narrating your own behavior. Why am I like this? Other people don't struggle this much. I'm wasting my life. And that judgment adds weight. Now it's not just the task you're avoiding. You're avoiding the feeling of being disappointed in yourself. So the escape becomes more urgent. The scrolling gets longer. The distractions get louder. And from the outside, it looks like laziness. But from the inside, it feels like being stuck between pressure you don't want to face and relief that never lasts. That's why willpower rarely helps here. You're not fighting a lack of effort. You're fighting a system that learned how to keep you away from a feeling you don't trust yourself to handle yet. Here's the part that almost nobody explains. Avoidance doesn't end when you finally push through. It ends when the feeling you're avoiding stops being treated like an emergency. Most people think the feeling will overwhelm them, that if they sit with it, they'll spiral, lose control, collapse into it. So they stay in motion instead. But when you don't escape, when you pause, even briefly, something unexpected happens. The feeling peaks, and then it changes. Not because you solved anything or made a plan, but because feelings are not meant to be outrun. They're meant to pass through. The discomfort you've been avoiding isn't endless. It's just unfamiliar. And the more you keep escaping it, the more dangerous it feels in your mind. That's why the first real shift isn't action. It's tolerance. The moment you realize, I can sit here for 30 seconds and not fix this. No scrolling. No numbing. No explanation. Just noticing the urge to escape and not obeying it immediately. At first, that feels like doing nothing. But something subtle is happening underneath. You're teaching your nervous system that discomfort is survivable, that you don't have to disappear every time it shows up. And once that lesson lands, even a little, the grip of avoidance starts to loosen. Not because you became disciplined, but because the feeling lost its power over you. Once the feeling loses its urgency, something opens up. Not motivation, not confidence, space. For the first time, you're not reacting, you're noticing. You feel the restlessness, but it's no longer pulling you by the throat. And in that space, a small question appears. Not, what should I do with my life? Just, what's the smallest honest thing I could do right now? Not the best thing, not the productive thing, just the thing that doesn't feel like escape. Sometimes it's standing up. Sometimes it's opening the document without writing a word. Sometimes it's cleaning one corner of the room. Nothing impressive, but it matters because it comes from a different place. I even started noticing something else in my own life. When I was struggling internally, fighting pressure, overthinking, feeling stuck, people would suggest the usual solutions. Go outside, go to the beach, clear your mind. And sometimes those things help and totally seemed healthy. But I realized that, for me, they could also become another form of escape. Because dopamine is a nasty thing if it doesn't come from a right place in right time. So occasionally, I tried the opposite. I stayed where I was, let the discomfort sit with me. I allowed the pressure to exist without immediately trying to soften it. Not because stress is good, but because I needed to understand what I was actually running from. When you constantly chase relief, especially through easy dopamine, your brain learns that discomfort must be avoided at all costs. And when that happens, even small challenges start to feel overwhelming. But when you stop immediately reaching for relief, something shifts. The pressure stops feeling like an emergency. It becomes information. And that's where movement starts to change. Not from pressure, not from guilt, but from alignment. You're no longer trying to silence a feeling, but you're letting it exist and moving anyway. That's the difference people miss. Action that comes from avoidance feels heavy. Action that comes after avoidance feels lighter. Not easy, just lighter. And once you experience that difference, even once, your relationship with laziness changes. You stop asking, what's wrong with me? And you start asking, what am I trying not to feel? That question doesn't shame you. It points you somewhere real. Because laziness was never the problem. Avoidance was. And avoidance loosens its grip when you stop treating your inner discomfort like something that has to be escaped. If you've been calling yourself lazy, pause for a moment. Notice what happens right before you reach for distraction. Not the distraction itself, the second before it. There's usually a feeling there. Small, tight, easy to ignore. That's the moment everything turns. You don't need to fix it. You don't need to push through it. You don't need a better system. You just need to stop lying to yourself about what's happening. Most days, you're not choosing comfort. You're choosing relief. And relief makes sense when you don't trust yourself to sit with discomfort. But the moment you see that clearly, something shifts. The urge loses its story. The pressure becomes tolerable, and the need to escape softens. Not because you became disciplined, not because you forced change, but because you stopped fighting the wrong battle. You were never lazy. You were protecting yourself from a feeling you didn't know how to carry yet. And learning to carry it, slowly, imperfectly, is where real change begins.